Alright, in this video I'm going to demonstrate how to reinstall the valve stem assembly on a Royal Action. It could be Royal 400, 500, Boss, or Bobcat. Alright, even the old Swift model. Alright, first, when you reassemble, make sure you got new O-rings. There's one here, and there's one in here. Alright, that seals the shaft. It seals this end here. When you go travel in and out, again, opens and closes the valve, this travels in and out of here. It seals this. So when you have a leak in here, there's a hole all the way through. So if you have a bubble leak here, it is coming off this seal here. If it's O-ring leaking here, it'll come out the OD of the plug. Alright, first thing is, make sure the O-ring's in here. Spring goes in there first. Doesn't matter which end. Then your spring guide. Alright, a little narrow part of it goes towards the spring. Then you put it in there. Then the O-ring will keep everything in place. So when you insert it, everything's aligned. Earlier, I replaced the valve seat that's attached to the body inside the Action, because these two are made up like this and sealed. Right, and this bushing is sealed at the hammer end when it hits it. So when this gets sealed, and this O-ring here seals it when the hammer gets hit. Alright, so it doesn't have a blowback and go out to your side of the Action here. You feel a little blow over here, that means they need to replace the seal there. Alright, now the keynote. And don't fire this when you bleed it. Don't keep firing this just to bleed the air out of the chamber, because when you hit this, kind of over travel, right, and it won't go back in the bushing. When a hammer hits it, it's a small bushing it's in, it gets whacked, and it won't go back in the hole because there's not enough pressure in there to push it forward. So be careful, don't shoot it down with low pressure, like below 100 bars, because you'll tendency to knock this out of place. It'll over travel like this and come out of the bushing. Alright, what I did was, on this bushing, to replace it inside the Action, I used kind of a scribe with a hook on it. It's like this. So I kind of went inside and pulled it out, and it's not really tight in there. To put it back in, the front of the O-ring, it'll fall inside the seat. Then you get something soft to push the rest of it in, and it'll stop. It doesn't go any further, it just bottoms out. So that's been replaced already. So to put this in, make sure it's lubed up here. Alright, we're going to make sure you slowly guide it in there till stop. The first O-ring in here will go in. You kind of push, and you hand tight it. Alright, keep doing that. Make sure it's not binding it at all. When it's almost flush, about 2 threads sticking out, look through this hole. You'll see the end of the valve stem. Diamond is inside that bushing, so it's okay to tighten it down. If you feel a lot of resistance, it's not going in that bushing. See it? That hole is halfway filled, and the end of the valve stem is right there for the hammer to hit. So the bushing and the valve stem are properly aligned. So I go ahead and tighten it down till it bottoms out, and lightly, hand tight it down. And that's it. And what I usually do is make sure this valve is opening smoothly. I stick my Allen in there and compress the valve stem. I feel the spring tension, it pops shut. Alright, see that? So I know it's freely, not jammed open. Alright, then I'm going to pressurize this and test it. I'll show you right now. Alright, I have to remove this because to get this plug out, you need to remove this because it's in the way. Alright, you gotta make sure you got a new O-ring when you reinstall this piece. Oh, it's right here. There, here's the regulator overhauled earlier. Key point in putting this in, this piece here, is this hole here. Make sure it's aligned like this, so your Foster will align, you know, straight down like this, not cockeyed. But anyway, I had a leak here since I was tuning this gun, overhauling it. This is actually a check valve. When pressure applied, this travels in and out to fill, and when you relieve the pressure from the hose, it'll shut, it'll close. Well, the problem was the service kit didn't have a seal for this check valve. So this piece here, you know, I machined it and made it, because you can't put O-ring in there, because when the pressure is applied, it'll expand, and when you shut it, it gets crimped on the side here, and you'll cut the O-ring. So it has to be a Teflon seat. All right, make sure it's under this OD here, making flush here. When you make it, make sure it sits closed and travels in and out without binding. All right, then you screw this in. Make sure you guys have a new O-ring, or you can reuse it if the O-rings are not damaged. And tighten it down. You don't really need to really tighten this, you know, tight till O-ring is compressed. Then you realign this. You know, you don't want to, and it won't go in the stock if it's, you know, if it's not centered with the gauge like this. And when you put pressure in there, you're not going to be able to realign this so it'll go in the stock. And make sure you eyeball it. If I had the stock, I would put the stock on, make sure the Foster fits in there on the stock. All right, then I have my test cylinder here. I don't want to fill a 500cc 400cc tank. I use this one here that has no check valve inside. Just handle it tight, and we're going with the hose here. I have to replace that valve stem because it was leaking out the barrel. Alright, this is to test everything. This has to be straight. Alright, there you go. Well, I want to see the gauge here. I want to feel this. Alright, there's pressurized. Now the key point to ensure that check valve is not leaking is bleed it off right away, the supply hose, and the check valve should close and your pressure shouldn't drop that much. Right there. I'm gonna fill it some more. See it go up, you hear check valve open, bleed it. There. And the pressure is holding. Remove the hose. And after the pressure stabilized from the air tube, because it's kind of warm, just filled it. Let it stabilize about an hour or so, and you mark your gauge here and check for leaks. Usually in the morning, a couple hours. But usually I put the barrel back on and put some spit on the end of the barrel. Make sure the bolt is closed, and check for bubbles, because it was bubbling like every second off the muzzle. All right, we'll catch you next video. I'll test this later on. See my valve stem, new valve stem assembly is holding inside. There's a couple cycle firing it. Check the valve stem again for leaks. Put a lot of rounds in there. Make sure everything is sealing, holding up, consistent. All right, we'll catch you next video.